grow. And when you're ripe, you rot, which translated essentially means when you're green, you're learning. You're still stretching yourself. And when you feel like you've learned everything you want to learn, that's when decline starts happening. So we're going to talk about how to keep on learning, what learning is, gaining experience, building understandings, maybe even dipping into wisdom.
Because we are lifelong learners and we value learning and we still question it. So I think we're not quite ripe yet. So I think we're in the green and grow category.
We've got a few more things to learn.
We do. A whole lot more to learn. I've always felt, believed, observed that every human being has a special hidden treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And that hidden treasure, well, sometimes it's visible, but I do think that not all things are visible all at once. So I think that every single one of us has something of value. And because I believe in reincarnation, that we've worked really diligently to build some kind of an understanding around this thing that we have. And in the world of education, I'm talking now formal education, sometimes we think that kids start off as a blank slate.
Yeah.
And that's an okay thought too, because I
That's
think
the classical model of
because
education.
even what I'm about to say probably could still fit into that. But I think that everyone has something. And so my desire is that everyone is seen as being that all the time. Not their behaviors, not how you want them to be, but that there's something already of value.
See, I think that's a powerful, really attractive stance for a teacher of someone who's really young, where you see this little kid and you don't see it as a vessel to pour stuff into. You see this kid as already what I used to say with the girls. I'd say something like, I see that you are 265,000 years old. You've been coming to this planet for 265,000 years. So, of course, you've got tons of experience and understandings that you bring to this lifetime here. However, you've got a little tiny body and a little tiny new brain that does need a little bit of programming, and you got to learn the language and how to pick up a fork and do some basic math again.
Mm-hmm.
But you do bring all of that other stuff to the table.
Right.
That is there already. Let's just help you get access to all of that so you can use it again and add to it in whatever ways you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. The Buddhists have the term terma as being that's a hidden treasure. It's something that's already within you and it's going to be revealed. And it could be in the form of an object, it could be in the form of an understanding, something, but it's something that's there to be revealed.
Is that akin to a dharma that someone has developed, or is it something different than that?
I would say yes. I would say yes to that.
Because Richard Rudd also talks about
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
crystal that is associated with the heart,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in there, and it it like attracts things to you and also emanates
Right.
outward, and there's this
Right.
central point.
Right. And there's a rediscovering process of bringing that out fully.
Hmm.
So that is revealed, will be revealed the more a person does, the work to reveal it.
Hmm. So over
And
lifetimes even.
it's over
Yeah.
lifetimes. And I'm just going to break it down into, let's just say, let's break it down into a married couple or even a couple that, they're committed, they're really trying to work things out and they're two people. So let's talk about it in a relational sense.
Hmm.
Let's not even use the word you're on a spiritual journey. Let's not put those words in there. It's just two individuals that go through the daily trials of laughing, fighting, blaming, coming back together, not wanting, they're reliving old learned patterns in their lifetime, but at the same time there's something deep inside of them that wants to make this relationship work.
Hmm.
And so maybe self-examining patterns or behaviors to make a change to contribute for this journey of a relationship to continue and to continue to get stronger. So in my mind, learning, teaching, education can occur all the time if you have the awareness enough that you have a contributing factor to causing your own development, and that will bring out those, it'll open up the floodgates of all this
Yeah.
other understandings or other things that you have stored or insights, and you're
So
open to other
consciously learning,
people. Yeah.
consciously approaching learning rather than just going through life and, well, I guess I learned a lesson there, or I went to school and I learned stuff. You're actually seeking understanding and
Mhm.
seeking to build
Right.
growth and experience.
And I know some other people refer to it as, well, then you have to then unlearn things that you have learned. There can be that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Like
is,
unwinding your childhood and
yeah.
yeah, unlearning bad habits.
But even in the unlearning, you're still learning,
Right.
right?
But
It's
maybe
still,
there's just learning, you know.
right? It's just learning. So
Well,
you,
we should probably define or attempt to define what is learning.
okay.
What what is learning anyway? I think there's intrinsically a couple of different approaches. There's that classical model of, you're gonna layer information and experience and gradually build up like sedimentation. You're gonna build up a body of knowledge in you, and I think that's the classical model. You're going to go to first grade, then second grade, then third grade, and fourth, and
Mhm.
add some algebra and add some geometry and adding. Then there's the other approach that's subtractive. Like you're going to get out of the way more and more and allow mm, information, knowledge, wisdom that's already out there and allow yourself more and more direct access to that knowledge.
So
And
here's
yeah, you
probably a
go.
place mark to put a little bit of quotes in here.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so my buddy, I call him my friend, even
Your
though I've
buddy.
only had one email with him.
Yeah.
Tyson Yunkaporta wrote, I think he's into writing his third book, but this is a question I had, or that he talked about, which is that each one of us has indirect or direct access to memories of every moment and experiences in our lives. Um, and one has to be connected daily to intuitive or extra cognitive ways of thinking and being in order to utilize this big knowledge system that's out there.
Mm.
So again, he's not here. So these are words that I've read from him, and my interpretation of what he's saying is that what we've been talking about already.
Yeah.
We all
Now
have
he uses
access,
intuition as
Mhm.
access.
Right? But to access it is, it's there, it's available.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put words in his mouth about what this knowledge system is from, if he was here, I would love to have that conversation. I'm going to use that knowledge system as something in the cosmic way that's always been available to us,
Hmm.
to everybody. I think there's just different individuals who probably just have a more direct access to it, but it's still available,
Yeah.
right? And then another quote from Hammeroff and Penrose. It's wonderful doctors and scientists that they wrote a book together. It's talking about this knowledge system. And they say, so my questions were, is the knowledge system, talking about this knowledge system, is it multiple layers or levels of consciousness? And my other question is
Mm.
it a well designed system of codes and frequencies? It's a question. And then trying to blend what these well thought out individuals are also trying to make sense out of. They say that the term quantum refers to a discrete element of energy in a system. So, from a quantum perspective, information that involves consciousness is never destroyed.
Hmm. Yeah, and physicists would say that
Mm-hmm.
um, essentially information is infinite because you can always subdivide information and find more information within that information.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the classical model of the atom. Well, we think there's this stuff swirling around some other stuff inside, and
Mm-hmm.
you drill down and you find there's electrons, but maybe electrons don't actually exist. That's where things are headed now.
Right.
And what are these protons? Well, they're made of quarks. And what are quarks? And you just keep on digging and you get more and more information.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be true of anything that you learn. There's more. As soon as you learn something, there's more. And there's
Yeah.
more. And you can subdivide and you can go infinitely big with something. Like we start understanding the solar system, then you say, well, what's beyond the solar system?
And what did we miss? And what did we
Yeah,
think?
let's fill in the gaps in between whatever pieces of information that we have, and there's more information there.
Mm-hmm.
So early on, my dad introduced me to Edward Tiller. He's a physicist, but also a philosopher physicist, which is the most dangerous kind. And he was proposing and trying to explain dimensions, like dimensions of information, not just levels of information or subdividing. And I, I got lost, after about the fifth dimension of information. And he says, "Oh yeah, this goes up, 11 dimensions of information." I'm like, oh my, gee, my head hurts.
Yeah.
But you can't understand it with your head. Maybe you have to access it intuitively, like your quote there. You have to just allow it to arrive in
Yeah.
your being, in your mind, and let go of trying to learn it with your head and brain.
Well,
And
and think about this about Tiller writing that down.
yeah,
Like
like
it's like this
somehow he
is
had access to it in order to describe it. I'm
right.
like,
This is what I'm
oh,
really trying to describe. What words can I use to describe this thing that on some level makes so much sense to me, but you know that he was still working it out.
yeah.
And he's trying to
Lao Tzu
express
writing
it.
out the Tao, where
Right.
the legend of them detaining him at the border. He's trying to go retire somewhere in the mountains, and they say, "No, no, 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 no! You can't leave until you write down the Tao." And he's like, "Oh, okay,
Okay.
I'll write it down. Here you go." And we're still going, "What is this? Oh my God! What did he? How did this guy understand this?" And yeah,
Well, I think that goes back to that gradual revealing of different layers of consciousness,
yeah.
right? And by doing that, you're revealing those different codes and frequencies.
So, what do you
And
mean by codes and
well, I
frequencies?
think
What
of
is that?
codes and frequencies of okay, you're a mathematician, so you probably would see it differently. And you're a mathematician and a scientist and a musician. So
Patterns, patterns,
patterns,
patterns.
patterns,
Yeah.
patterns, patterns. So for me, I'm in the creative realm that has
Flow, fluid flow. Yeah.
very much. And so for
Yeah.
me, I see shapes and forms in structures, and I see process,
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
see ideas that keep forming and developing. So I'm a, I see what my mind is seeing. I can imagine things, but I can also see things that come to me.
Yeah.
So when I think of codes and frequencies, I think of it in terms of this motion of energy that I can't even say that I tap into anymore. Right now, I
Hmm.
think I'm in this state of it's easy for me to access all the time, like it's always present.
Is it more like sensing? Like you sense these codes and frequencies and then associate? information with this sensing?
Well, a good question. Again, I don't think I would use the word code or frequency, but I believe that that's what they are.
Hmm.
So I would use a different word,
Okay.
right? So I think that's what is happening, but my brain would not articulate it that way. I think a different person would articulate it different, like you would.
Yeah.
Someone like you would maybe use words like that. But I would use it as being able to see and feel and sense and resonate with a rhythm that's constantly moving. And then what I do is I'm able to be with it, express it. I don't even say I would harness it anymore. It's just, I'm with it and I'm able to then express it.
Hmm.
And that expression comes out not just in a visual format, but it comes out through my expression of love and care, of tending to the garden,
Hmm.
um, being in relationship. But it's just this, I'm connected to this movement, and so I cooperate with it through my expression. And when there's one more thing, and then so
Yeah.
when there's a misalignment or I'm not fluidly connected to it, it usually gives me a pause of something to, why is that disruption occurring?
Hmm.
And then I do some self examination or exploration of it. So I would describe it differently, but I would think that I do believe that those are also codes and frequencies that I am responding to and connecting to.
Yeah.
Because when I hear others describe codes and frequencies of how the universe, yeah, I mean, you could hear it through astrology, through astronomy, through mathematical codes. I'm articulating it in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. You receive it and see it and experience it a different way. And maybe just describing the same thing as somebody else, talking patterns and pattern
Mm-hmm.
recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Like in several episodes now, we use the metaphor of the river, a river of consciousness, and we we run up and down the shore of consciousness
Mm-hmm.
and maybe dip our toes in or maybe jump in and participate in this. But maybe that river of consciousness is more like information or intelligence. There's a river of intelligence, and then if we if we direct our attention to it, it becomes consciousness. Like if we plug into it, it becomes consciousness. But other than that, it's just like a river of information and intelligence that's pure, self existing, doesn't have any connotation or meaning until there's engagement with it, until you wade into it. And then it's consciousness. And then you can do stuff with consciousness. You can become self aware, or you can teach, or learn, or grow, or change.
As you know, we've both done our dissertations, but in the dissertation world, you don't include, when you're interviewing people, you don't include their identifiers for their protection. So
Hmm.
usually you name them something else, like Bobby, real name Bobby becomes
Yeah.
now
Janet.
Janet, right? Another
Right.
pseudonym comes into
Sorry,
play.
Janet, but yeah.
So, what I chose to do when I was writing my dissertation and the tone of my dissertation was about resonating with the individuals that I was interviewing. And so, after listening to them and being with them during the time I was interviewing with them, the visual impression that I received about each one of them came not in the form of a name, but in the form of like for example, one person, I refer to them as River,
Hmm.
because speaking of the word river, they were so fluid and
Hmm.
so So not attached to what they were saying, but that non-attachment really just came from this layer of what I would call just wisdom that would just flow,
It would just bubble up and
bubble up.
flow.
And
Yeah.
then she would answer a question. And
Mm.
then she wouldn't take a long time answering the question. It was just flowing through her. And that's every time I spoke with her, it was, I'm going down this river with you,
Hmm. Wow.
and then she would just describe something. And there are some people that I think have access to that level of just moving through.
Do you think,
And yes,
circling back or spiraling back, do you think that's um, due to that layering
I
part of
do.
learning, or do you think that's part of tapping into like unlayering, like scraping away layers of
Yeah.
conditioning to reveal this ability, this river ability?
Here's how I'm going to answer it. The intuitive reports have shown us on all of the different type of intuitive reports, they have all shown us that there is a continuity of in every lifetime and or health analysis or whatever it is. It has shown us that individuals have a progression and sometimes they have a stagnation depending on where they're at in their life and what the report is saying.
Hmm.
So the intuitive reports tell us that there is a carryover,
Yeah.
a carryover. And so, yes, I do think that this way of moving through, again, the awareness of an individual, and this person that I was referencing that I referred to as River, she was a Waldorf teacher. So and she was raised that way, even before she knew what Waldorf was.
Hmm.
She was raised in this environment of just being in the world and being in nature. So her lived experience in this lifetime was an extension of, I believe, what her other lifetimes have been, is just
Yeah, you pick up where you left off,
kind of moving
essentially. Yeah.
through. And so there's the learning was part of her experiences. I mean, she learned in a very natural, organic manner with from what she tells me about her family, that she was well loved, she was well cared for, but also her dignity was always in place because they allowed her to explore,
Hmm.
but they gave her a safe place to do that.
Yeah.
It's a long answer to your question, but the answer is yes. I think it's all of those things. I think it's a continuation. And the other thing that the intuitive reports have told us is that some of this is, yes, the Dharma.
Hmm. There was a report, you know this one. We just explored it recently. There's a little girl who got a health analysis. Her mom sent in a health analysis, and she was asking in particular about what kind of schooling, what kind of education would be really suitable for this girl. And it talked about, I think she's in daycare at this point, and it did recommend that kind of Waldorf school. In fact, when I sent the report to her, I even said, "Do you have a Waldorf school nearby? Because it really sounds like your daughter needs to be in that kind of educational environment where it's both nature based but also spiritually based, and also that fluid tapping into understandings and encouraging understandings to come forth rather than we're going to have activities today and then more activities and give them activities and lots of activities. Just more pausing, more stillness, more quiet in nature is recommended. And that the woman wrote back and she said, actually, we are looking into Waldorf schools,
Mm.
and we're going to be moving in most likely 6 months or so, and we're definitely looking at a Waldorf school. I'm doing a lot of plugging of Waldorf schools, but
Huh.
I think
Wow.
it's pretty cool. It might not be for everybody, but
Right.
certain souls that are ready or they've got that carryover, like you said, that of understandings that they're ready to, you know, kick in this, that, and the other thing, and they need that stillness to cook that for a little bit while, and then they'll be off and running with what they're here to do, exploring their accessing their terma a little bit deeper and farther.
Well, I also think that, and I've observed this, so it's not just an I think. River, the person mentioned, also indicated that not all Waldorf teaching is still based on the original Waldorf
That
teaching.
is true. Yeah. Yeah.
And that paused my analysis. I was like, ah, that
Hmm.
reminds me of in the regular educational system, we've got to remember that they're still individuals that are teachers, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
individual, that not every, like two people can, let's just, sorry, Waldorf, we're not picking on you, but just as an example, you get two people, or let's say three people that are going through the Waldorf schooling system to become educators in that system.
They're going
Even
to
those,
interpret it differently. Yeah.
that's right. They're all
Yeah.
going to do it differently. And some
Yeah.
will, they just differently.
Yeah. Some
Right.
might not be as comfortable with doing the spiritual side of it,
Mm-hmm.
and some may really lean into the nature side of it, and some, might come from a traditional school background and say, no, we really need to learn our ABCs and,
Mm-hmm.
do that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to lean more towards, yeah, there'll be
Yeah.
interpretation
I
as
mean,
well.
right. You still don't know. And that's also, I think, important to when we talk about education. I've always been of the opinion is teachers are the first, or parents are the first teachers,
Yeah.
good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah.
You can have a teacher or parent that, as we were talking before we started, you can have a parent that maybe doesn't have a clue how to raise you.
Yeah.
Maybe they just weren't, they didn't have good guidance in
And
their,
maybe, expand beyond parents, but like the home environment is
that's
your
right.
first teacher. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, just
Guardians.
it's what's created within the dynamics of
Yeah.
your
And that nest.
of that little nest of yours.
Yeah.
But it's all there. I'm probably simplifying it when I say good, bad, or indifferent, but all of that is still part of your learning environment.
Yeah.
And then when you leave that environment and go to another environment to learn, well, then you got another pocket of information back
Yeah.
to that knowledge system that's adding
Yeah.
to your tool house of
And new
information.
styles, you encounter new people with new styles and
Mhm.
emphasis. And like with our girls, we started with what I think you would call unschooling, where it was nature based and it was spiritual based. It wasn't a Waldorf system. It wasn't exactly a Montessori system, although Christine and I both went through Montessori school when we were young. But it was more like child-led learning, where whatever they lean towards, you support that and encourage that. And then bit by bit, we started feeling like, yeah, I think we need to introduce some actual subject matter training here and introduce writing and reading and math. And so we phased that in and did what I think you'd call homeschooling. And then, but all the while, both of us had that perspective of these are ancient souls that have come, and we are entrusted with these souls and giving them a foundation for this lifetime, and also trying to spark a consistent love of learning and an interest in learning, and
Mhm.
that'll take them on. We're only going to have them for a little while, then they're going to fly the nest, and
Right.
we want them to be able to learn anything that they want to, or be able to focus and concentrate and navigate emotions and those essential skills, those essential blocks, tap into their intuition, and then off they go to explore.
You
Or,
just had a graduate.
yeah, yeah, high school graduate. So at a certain point, both of them decided, yeah, I think I want to go to school now.
Hmm.
Okay. And so we supported that and allowed that. And turned ourselves inside out with the traditional public school system,
Mhm.
and they did too. And they're on the other side of that, and you're back to what do I want to learn today? Every day you wake up and what am I going to do today, and what am I going to learn? How am I going to process it? And that's life is learning something every single day.
A dear colleague of mine, I think she's probably one of the smartest people that I know in the assessment world. And one of the things that she brought to my level of thinking was the word self regulation
Mm,
and how peers, how having peers and having the environment of other kids your age and or other, it doesn't matter, but just other siblings, whether they're siblings, but preferably other other folks that are not in your little nest of world, that they help build the quality of self-regulation, meaning that they give you feedback.
yeah.
And so from that, and that maybe that feedback is in the form of, what a dumb answer. Or maybe the feedback is in the form of, oh my God, you did a great job. Or I didn't think of that. Or that the way you draw that looks really nice. Or it
Yeah.
just depends. But feedback is going to allow that person then to receive information and how valuable that is for an individual in their own learning to be able to then discern information as opposed to be oversensitized by someone said someone mean to me, someone said
Hmm.
someone is saying something that's creating a negative space for me.
Yeah.
It builds another layer of strength for an individual,
Resilience. Yeah.
but it just self-regulate.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, emotional
Right.
maturity, emotional resilience is, oh, wow, it's so important.
Yeah.
And especially in this day and age when it's pretty easy to go down that path of they hurt me. They said these mean things about me. And I want to build a bubble around myself, a
Mhm.
protective bubble around myself of rights and protections. To a certain degree, I do agree with that. And also, I think a certain amount of resilience training or resilience practices in there. My mom used to, she used to say, my job as a parent is to make you tough. Like, oh, okay.
Well,
So
that
she'd
answers a
come to
why
school
question.
and try to embarrass us. She would
Oh,
dress
wow.
as I don't know, a flamingo or whatever. She would come to school till the lunchroom and she'd walk over and shower us with kisses and have some ridiculous costume on. And she
Oh,
did this, more than just once.
really?
And she would say, my job is to make you tough, which meant make you resilient so that you don't crumble from embarrassment. You don't crumble from a stray word here or there that somebody says, that you can withstand that and you're not blown over from
Well, I
the,
think that's why I would use the word, because I do see the word resilience, but the word self-regulation,
yeah,
it helps you.
you got to do it yourself.
You've got to. You have
Yeah.
to. I mean, you don't have to, but I mean, there's a value added to your own development
You're
if
not
you
a
do
victim
that.
at that point. Yeah, if you
Right.
if you learn some self-regulation, you're not constantly being a victim of this, of that, of this person.
Yeah, it takes away the need to blame someone else or put expectations that
Yeah.
someone needs to adhere to something so that it makes you feel okay.
Yeah. Now, mean things do happen, especially,
Yes.
wow, especially in schools. There
Yes.
are mean kids who do
Yes.
mean things to each
Yes.
other, like
Yes.
sometimes horrifically mean things. Um,
I will
and
tell
yeah,
you,
you
Paul.
can be a victim of that.
That's right.
Whether
I will
you
tell you though,
stay in victimhood is, I think, a matter of self-regulation.
that is real. And so for all of my years for teaching in the classroom, there was one student, one boy, where I thought to myself, this guy scares the living daylights out of me.
Jesus.
I mean, to the point where I thought he probably will cause harm in an
Yeah.
in a violent, awful way because he was just it's so there's
Hmm.
that extreme of of the learning environment.
Dysregulation. Yeah.
And then you have what is I would put them all in this middle gap. Like one year I had a group of nothing but predominantly boys, all the way from kindergarten through they all graduated. It was a K-8 school that I was teaching at.
Hmm.
And I thought, oh my God, this is the year of just having these crazy boys, just this boy energy, that was, and sometimes they would do mean things. Sometimes they
Yeah.
would do very nice things. Sometimes they would be ornery things. Someone they would mischievous things. But I would never put them in the category of just being really, really horrifically mean.
Hmm.
Right. And so that also created this little bubble of circumstances, what their energy brought to
Yeah.
the learning environment.
And that changes how you teach, and it
Mhm.
changes how the other people in the environment can learn.
Yep.
Bringing it back to teaching, learning, and education. Um, yeah, that one bad apple can can spoil the whole bushel. Vivi, my daughter, who just graduated, she we would ask her every once in a while, um, is it pretty well acknowledged at school who would be the one who would cause like a big disturbance there? And she just like, oh yeah, yeah, we know. Like, who would be the school shooter? And people
Ooh,
keep their eye on
yes.
them. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
right.
know. I'm gonna say it, but yeah, and I think
But
that
that is
is
true.
probably true for a lot of schools. The
Yes.
the kids know. The
Yes.
kids. It's not like, wow, he was such a nice guy. I can't believe that he. No, they already know
Mhm.
who who is pretty unstable, and they steer clear of them. And the counselors probably have a pretty good idea already as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not out of the blue. So,
No, it's not
ooh,
out of
this
the
is
blue.
taking a darker turn here.
I know. Well, I know we talk about school education kids and whatnot,
Yeah,
but that's also part of the whole.
that is part of the whole. Yeah, and the learning process, and
Mhm.
definitely is in that
Right.
um, public school environment. Sorry, but yeah,
Well,
it
I mean,
is. And bullying and yeah.
because again, let's talk about the why behind the intent behind why teach, why learn.
Hmm.
Um, you can create a bubble. You can say, nope, my kids will only learn in this environment because I don't want them to be exposed to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, yeah, and you bubble wrap everything in
And
their
that's a
life, and
choice. You can do
mhm.
that. And I, again, going back to this whole parents or the family unit has, they're the ones that are the first teachers, right, of a child's learning.
Yeah,
Um, but even that, you just can't control everything
yeah,
because eventually kids do grow up. Eventually, kids do have other people in their lives. Eventually, those things will happen.
yeah,
Unless, again, we don't want to go on the dark side. There are extreme cases, but eventually, your voice will not always be the dominant one.
yeah. Kids have a weird way of becoming
Mhm.
adults. Yeah,
Yeah.
they tend to become adults for the most part, and some don't. There are man children and um, kids that just 40-year-old people that are still basically teenagers, or 91-year-old people that are still teenagers, essentially. Yeah, that happens. But for the most part, I think people do try to grow up for the most part. They do try to become responsible adults. And a big part of education is preparing people for adulthood, prepare you for adulthood, and the responsibilities that come with that. And the experience, try to give them experience so that they do build understanding so that they can navigate as productive members of society. So I think that in general is the quest, right, of education, is to provide experiences, provide a foundation, provide um, a body of knowledge to draw from, to pull from. You might not need all state capitals or all the
Yeah.
rivers of the world, but it's in there in case you do. You might not need algebra 2, as I found out as a math teacher, but you know, there's a way of
Thank
thinking, a
goodness.
way of approaching the world that is learned from doing math. I had to explain that to student after student, class after class of, okay, yeah, you might not necessarily need this rocket science algebra here, but it's stretching your mind in a way that now is different. You
Hmm.
you can see the world in terms of problem solving in a different way instead of just here's a problem, I'm just going to hammer it with this hammer. You might be confronted with a problem in your life and you say, "Well, all right, let me go in the side door. Let me factor out these elements like a quadratic equation and get various solutions that could work in this equation, in this problem in my life, and try out these different input variables and see." So yeah, there's good
Okay,
stuff
Paul,
in everything.
you said something there about that added to the why learn.
Yeah.
It does, again, when I say it, depending on the type of learning you're exposed to, can expand, deepen, and broaden and provide a new perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get new approaches that otherwise you might be just limited to a couple of approaches.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Which
And
I,
then your self-regulation idea, instead of just crying every time that things don't go your way, you might try a different approach.
yeah.
You might try this approach or that approach. And that's part of education as well.
Right. And I have found that by doing that, the whole key to self-regulation, again, normalizing normal educational assessment systems, um, it really is important to receive feedback. And
Yeah.
boy, is it was made very clear to me when I would see not, and not just students, but when I would see my peers, my work peers, my staff. Um, it was like, as a matter of fact, an interview question, that was one of the important things, is like, how well do you receive feedback? What do you think about
Yeah.
feedback?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to work with someone who is open to that. And that way you're not working with someone who's constantly defensive, or you're walking around on tiptoes,
Hmm.
not sure what to say. If they may say something. I mean, self-regulation has so many advantages in
Oh
the
man,
future life, in the future life.
yeah.
um,
I'm going to tell on myself for a little bit here.
please do.
I I thought of myself as pretty responsible and pretty responsive and emotionally regulated, and I for a long time I've felt like I can navigate difficult situations, but there was an area in my life um, and throughout my life where I have had difficulty, and it's navigating emotional situations. Logic, easy breezy. Reasoning, no problem. Learning stuff, easy. Emotional situations, not so
Mhm.
easy. Always difficult for me, and I would tend to avoid them. And I didn't really want to admit that I would say, at this point, I now say I was emotionally immature. And I would
Mhm.
still call myself emotionally immature to a certain degree. And that was hard for me to admit
Yeah.
that. It was hard for me to say that, yeah, I tend to push away difficult conversations or push away um, emotional conversations where someone had an emotional content to it, or someone was upset, or I didn't want to upset this person, so I would change all of
Mhm.
this, these gyrations in order to avoid an emotional situation. And as soon as I actually acknowledged that I think I'm actually emotionally immature here, and I could use some maturing in this area. It opened up
Mm,
this door for me that I could finally learn. I could
mm,
finally, once I admitted it, I could finally approach it differently. And I could learn some skills, some communication skills, and some listening skills, and some reflection skills, and all of this stuff. But until then,
yeah,
I I had that door closed,
right.
learning.
Wow.
So I think it's a big part of learning is the willingness to learn and also the awareness that there is something there to learn.
Right. Because I do believe that in life, assessment in your life is essential. In school we do different type of assessments. So I'm really
Yeah,
talking, I mean, yeah,
content.
assess whether you know content, certainly it's important. But to again, with anything, the deeper value of teaching assessment skills back to a teacher understanding the deeper um, probabilities, if done really well, will
Hmm.
really help the long term development of that child.
Yeah,
I mean, it just if you can help a student in a classroom or your staff in a work environment, if you can help them, um, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways, to do that, but if you
hmm,
can, if that's your intention, then it's only valuable because it's you're by that happening. And I'll say this to you, Paul, by you doing that, when you open the doors to that emotional learning, more of you comes out, more of who Paul is comes out, and it benefits everybody. the
yeah,
the term the gifts come out,
yeah,
and I in my utopian world, I can envision people's traumas just unfolding all the time.
yeah.
And boy, you would just give yourself pats on the back all the time. You'd be easier to give pats on the back to other people. It's just, it's the fluidity. Again, it goes back to that is a flow when you're moving with those synchronicities of energy, the rhythms, the movement. You're moving with those. Again, I'm going to use the codes and frequencies. You're moving with how all of creation
Yeah.
naturally
I think you're moving
works.
with, like for me, it was definitely a karmic situation, probably lifetimes and lifetimes of avoiding emotional situations or emotional confrontations, emotional discussions. Had quite a judgment about it, but probably pretty karmic. And as soon as you turn towards a karmic situation or what
Mm,
you'd call karma in your life, if you turn towards it and say, all right, let's do this,
yeah.
let's do this, it is amazing what um, resources and people and circumstances will come flooding into your life and say, oh, really? You're going to go with this? All right, here we go. And
Mhm.
you get all this support and I don't know about encouragement, but you get support from the universal flow of circumstances and people and knowledge and information in order for you to fill that gap, that
Yeah.
karmic hole, that karmic gap. And until then, it feels like you're a victim of this
Yeah.
flow. It
Mhm.
feels like things are happening to me, and why am I always put in this situation? Why do I always have these emotional people around me? And it feels like life is happening at you and to you. But when you make that decision to embrace a learning
Mhm.
and you say, okay, let's have some experience with this. Wow, it just changes everything. You're back in the driver's seat and you can steer again, instead of you
Right.
rushing down the rapids in a flooded canoe, you're in the canoe. It doesn't have water in it,
Mhm.
and you've got a paddle now as well, and you can move around the rocks. It's so much different.
It's
And
different, and I think that's what you're talking about is you're. the experience becomes a wonderful teacher for you.
Yeah. Yeah. You're less buffeted around by life, and it's almost more almost, I'm gonna say, because I'm still in this this
Yeah.
learning situation, but it's it is more interesting.
Yeah.
There's more curiosity, and you can sit with it just better. You're not,
Do you would you agree with us that that's where peace begins,
ooh,
or that's where
hmm.
peace resonates?
When you go with the karmic situation
Mm-hmm.
instead of against it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there is a big element of peace in
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Because as you're
Yeah.
describing your
Peace would be that
experience just
flow,
now,
going with the
right?
flow. Yeah.
As you're describing that, I am just saying "Well, that just seems like a lot more peaceful. There's more equanimity
Yeah. Yeah.
in that movement. It doesn't mean that there's ripples. And I think sometimes I think that's where the word peace means there's no disturbances.
Yeah. I think intrinsic
Yeah.
is responsibility, like
Yeah.
self-responsibility in flipping that karmic
Mhm.
situation. So karma is either hitting you over the head, or you grab the hammer and you say, "All right, now I will do the nailing
Yeah, I'll
very
use this as a
purposefully.
tool. I'll use
Yeah,
this as
I
a
will
tool
use this
now.
tool, and I will do the constructing, or I at least am participating
Right.
in this. I'm not fighting it anymore." And yeah, there's peace with that. And it does require you to pick up the handle and
Hmm.
pick up the tool. And
What do you think, Paul, this has to do, learning and education has to do with the um, mystic world of information, the esoteric, the shamans, the wisdom keepers? What do you think wisdom, what's the correlation there?
with wisdom,
Hmm.
um, oh man, that is a tricky subject. I've heard a lot of perspectives on this. I'd say I've rarely heard it mentioned in the intuitive reports about wisdom. I've heard understandings, I've heard experience, um, but wisdom is kind of rare. What what I understand, to use the understanding word, is that wisdom is something that is beyond experience or learning or understanding. It's almost like there's existence of this intelligence that is the Tao. It is everything and nothing and all at once. And we can tap into it. Perhaps by practicing experience and understanding something for a while, you get this door that swings open and you get this direct experience of wisdom access. But it's not you that has the wisdom, and it's not them that has the wisdom. It just wisdom exists and you have tapped into it. Like the air that I breathe is not my air. It's just air. It's everywhere in here in this realm, and it's accessible to everyone.
Mm.
But whether you breathe in or and breathe out, that's still up to you. You could hold your breath out or you could hold your breath in. But whether you complete that cycle and invite that wisdom in and then maybe breathe out wisdom as well, that's still a personal decision and a personal practice.
So do you think that wisdom is, well, where does it come from? Like, is it this pull of like,
I would say it's the 11th dimension of information that Tiller talked about. I don't know. It's just up there,
right?
out there.
Well, I mean, if you can
Yeah.
access it, if you can access
Yeah.
it,
Wow.
like this, the ocean of wisdom, like the Dalai Lama, there's an ocean
Yeah.
of wisdom.
I think it is related to intuition. We had a whole
Yeah.
episode on intuition. Um, it's, I think it's beyond learning, but I think learning and understanding qualify you to tap into this. Maybe it's,
So it's a
maybe,
precursor.
maybe
It's a
that's the
precursor.
river also,
So, so
wisdom
the,
exists. And
so you think that learning, developing, growing, all of those wonderful words, or precursors to accessing.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
Accessing the
probably
wisdom.
why learning and growth and all of those good words are valued so highly and have been for forever.
Yeah.
Learning is the thing, you come into this life to learn and to grow. Um, and it's in order to become a little bit more in alignment with this river of wisdom that's already everywhere. Maybe that's what the Tao is wisdom.
So I've always had this, I'm still developing this. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not attached to it completely, but here's a visual that comes to me about wisdom. Um, oh, let's say somebody builds an understanding in um, harmony. I don't know. Let's say it's a mother. She's got 5 kids, and her husband's gone all the time. She's married, and their family unit. She's got kids that are always crazy, and all she wants to do is, I just need to have some harmony in my household. Otherwise, it'll go crazy. So, just the quality of harmony. So, it's one of the things that she's focused on in building this environment of we should be all harmonizing,
Hmm.
together, whatever that looks like to her. And then as she's because that's her intention to build harmony, she's more observant to ways that that can be either taught or seen or expressed.
Yeah.
So because her attention is on that, she keeps pulling up little threads of, oh, that's a keeper. That goes
Yeah.
in the harmony tool bag. Oh,
Yeah.
that one didn't work. Let's not put that in there. Let me use this one. So let's say she's now lived a full life. She has great grandchildren. She's ready to die. But through the course of her life, she keeps doing the tilling. She keeps tilling and tilling this thing about harmony. And eventually, and because it's not hers, like she doesn't have ownership over that. It's just something she wants to keep building and building and understanding, that now, like, it raises to a surface,
Hmm.
and it raises, and then it's deposited into this river which flows into this ocean. And that ocean is there, accessible to anybody.
Yeah. I I heard a couple of things in that analogy that okay, that sparked some revelation for me. One is that I think wisdom is beyond the individual.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of like grace. You don't think of I have grace. It's more like I have tapped into grace or grace has settled upon me. Um, and it's nothing that you did. Like you can't really do wisdom. You can't do wisdom. You might be wisdom or be in a state of wisdom and it
Or
might flow
express
through
it.
you. Yeah, you
Or
might express
express it.
it, but it's not yours. It's you don't possess wisdom. You access it and it arrives like grace
Right.
or
But
forgiveness arrives.
my image is more about how wisdom is created.
Yeah.
That's what my image is that
Yeah.
it's the individual helped plant it, water it,
Yeah, you cultivate it.
cultivate
Yes.
it, just grow, and then
Yeah,
it's
like King
woof,
Solomon,
then it's
very
part of the,
deliberately,
that's right. Then it's part of the
building
rest
wisdom.
of the universe.
Yeah. And yeah, I think you're right that by cultivating it, by cultivating access to it,
And maybe
um,
not even accessing the wisdom. Maybe you're not cultivating that, but you're cultivating something that will be part of this thing called wisdom.
yeah.
I mean, you're cultivating harmony,
Hmm.
but then
And you're
whatever,
adding to the collective understanding
that's
of
right.
harmony. So now the
That's right.
whole understands harmony a little bit better because of what you did
Yes.
in your lifetimes.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're back to the whole again,
We're back to the whole.
where you have access to the whole and the body of the whole as an individual, and then you can cooperate with that and you can add to it with your experience and your understandings, or not. You might stagnate in a little pool over here in your little part of the river
And I
until
and I
you
bel
realize, I think I'm ready to learn some more.
and I believe that throughout the history of humans, and maybe prior to that, that that's one of the reasons why these enlightened or light sources of teaching have stayed the course.
Hmm.
Like there's a lot of different groups have different ways of teaching you how to, let's take this woman this mother with 5 kids, let's say, whether she went to one of these certain groups and learned some different techniques or not, the one thing she learned was, I want to understand harmony. I want to give it to my family. I want to teach my children how to do that. So she had some skills, whether it's giving her attention, concentrating on something, giving
Hmm.
it back. I mean, there's skills, right? That
Right. Yeah.
these different groups have always
Factors.
taught.
Yeah.
Um, and those skills, I think at their purest state, are intended to teach you how to develop yourself, but eventually contribute to this bucket of wisdom.
Yeah. So you do harmony things, factors long enough that you build this understanding of harmony and then be harmony. Like you are this beacon of harmony, then just wherever you walk around and whatever you do, you bring harmony with
Right.
you.
But I'm just saying, let's
Yeah.
take that a next step further. I think that's part of your dharmas that you build.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think collective dharmas are part of the river of
Mhm.
information, of understandings that feed into this ocean of wisdom.
So, okay. All right.
Are you following that now?
Yeah, I'm following your river here.
Okay.
So you're saying that the river changes also.
Mm-hmm.
We can add to this river. It's not just we tap into the river that's already there of
No,
everything.
no,
We can actually add to it
right.
by building ourselves and building our experience and having experiences.
That's right. Let me take that another step further here.
Yeah.
The 5 children also have little pockets
All right. They
of this
have
particular
they've got
quality.
subharmonies
They've
or
got little bit other little forms of harmony,
yeah.
right? And which I think goes back to that whole analogy of, God, we did another episode uh, about the source of creation, the source, right? What is
Yeah.
the source? And that every single one of us is extension of this great form of light, this big sunbeam. And every single one of those little particles is part of the big picture, but also
Hmm.
an individual asset that's contributing even more so to this bigger picture.
Yeah. And can change also
Right.
and can transform and therefore the source, the whole is different, bigger, more because of it. Yeah.
And that's why when we talk about education, or for me, let me just speak for myself, but I think you and I are on the same path this way. This is why teaching and learning is so important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. This gets down to the spiritual side of teaching and learning
Yeah.
much more clearly.
Yeah.
It's not just picking up information and pouring things in or getting you ready for adulthood. It's this is an intrinsic part of existence is
Hmm.
building this river for
Right.
everyone's benefit.
Yeah. And even if I chose not to use the word spiritual, which I'm okay with,
Yeah.
even a person who never wants to use that word and they don't believe that, they're still doing it. If they are still intentionally wanting to be a good person or to learn something or understand
Yeah.
something, they are still contributing on a large scale to this vast, vast, vast world of
Hmm.
knowledge bucket that eventually turns into this big thing of wisdom. That's what I believe.
Yeah. It seems that everyone's life is then better because of it. Yeah,
Mhm.
all of a sudden the concept of saints came to mind,
Oh, how
um,
so?
especially in the Catholic tradition. The so by your good works and by your compassionate living and uh, provable miracles in the Catholic Church, then you become this saint. And the saints have attributes beyond this world, beyond this life, that they are capable of bestowing, participating in different ways with humanity.
Mm,
And that's, to me, that picture is humanity is better off because of this saintly life that somebody led. That might have had many lifetimes leading up to it, but
right.
because they lived in this way, humanity is now richer for it, and we have more resources available because of what this person did and contributed.
Ready? I'm going to close us off with something.
Yeah.
I look into the world. I look into myself. I look into the world. How is myself relating to the world? That's a Waldorf saying.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Okay.
I
Huh.
look into the world. I look into myself. I look into the world. How is myself relating to the world? Neither. There's so
All
much
right.
more to say. You and I could probably talk this to death.
Oh, yeah.
Please learn. Please expand your world
For the good of
for the
everyone.
good of everyone. You matter. Something inside you, someone else needs, but you need it more than anyone else.
And whatever you do, whatever experiences you have, and whatever you learn and build, it really does become available for the whole. Whether
Right.
you write it down or not, or pass it on or not, it actually does add to the body of the whole.
Yes. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Capucine. Once Upon a Quantum Leap is for your reference only. This podcast and the material is intended solely as educational information and should not be used for diagnosis or treatment of any health problem, financial, or legal advice.
You can listen to full episodes and find out about Paul and Capucine at onceuponaquantumleap.com. All reports shared on this show have been released with permission, and identifiers have been removed for individuals' privacy.
The Intuitive reports referred to in each episode are available on our website, on the podcast page, and through links in our show notes. We encourage you to listen to those for greater context.
If you're interested in obtaining your own intuitive report, go to quantuminsight.co. That's quantuminsight.co. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.